The desolate Nevada wasteland stretched endlessly under the relentless glare of the sun, its surface cracked and littered with forgotten fragments of a bygone era. Elara shaded her eyes with one hand, the other gripping the worn handle of her scanner. This was her life, endless scavenging, the faint hum of her equipment, and the occasional rush of discovery. She knew every inch of this barren land, or so she thought. Her scanner emitted a sharp, high-pitched chirp, startling her out of her routine. She adjusted the settings, narrowing the frequency range. The signal was unusually strong and steady, a bright beacon among the faint echoes of scrap and debris. Elara knelt, brushing away loose sand with her gloved hand. The scanner confirmed it. Something metallic and dense was buried deep beneath her feet. Excitement coursed through her veins. Most days yielded little more than rusted bolts or fragments of old machinery, but this was different. She grabbed her digger from the hover cart parked nearby. The tool hummed to life, its blade cutting effortlessly through the packed earth. Hour after hour, she worked, the hole growing deeper and the signal stronger. The Nevada heat was merciless, but she refused to stop. This could be her breakthrough, the find that would lift her out of obscurity and debt. At last, the blade struck something solid. She froze, her heart pounding. Carefully, she cleared away the surrounding dirt, revealing a smooth, iridescent surface. It shimmered faintly, reflecting the sunlight in hues of blue and silver. The object was about the size of a small car, its shape somewhere between a sphere and an oval, with grooves and ridges that seemed too deliberate to be natural. "What the hell is this?" she murmured, her voice barely audible over the wind. She ran her fingers over the surface, noting its cool, almost soothing texture. A part of her mind screamed to stop, to report this to anyone, but she silenced the thought. This was hers. She had found it, and whatever it was, it could change her life. As she examined the object, a faint pulse of light emanated from within, almost like a heartbeat. She stepped back instinctively, her scanner buzzing erratically. The pulse grew brighter, steady, and deliberate. Elara's curiosity battled with her unease. Was this thing alive? Was it a machine? Or was it something else entirely? She pulled her digger out of the hole, widening it to reveal the full extent of the object. It was seamless, almost organic in design, with no visible openings or markings, just that mesmerizing glow that seemed to respond to her proximity. Elara reached for her communication device, her fingers trembling. Her voice was shaky but determined as she recorded her discovery. Unidentified artifact found. Metallic, luminescent, buried approximately she paused, glancing at her GPS, -12 miles northwest of Ridgepoint Base. Further details pending. She stopped the recording and stared at the object. Reporting it felt like the right thing to do, but it also felt wrong. This wasn't just a piece of salvage, it was something extraordinary, and she couldn't shake the feeling that it was meant for her to find. As the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long shadows over the desert, Elara set up camp beside the artifact. Her mind raced with possibilities, her exhaustion overridden by the thrill of discovery. Tomorrow, she would uncover more, but tonight, she would guard her treasure. In the silence of the night, the pulse of light continued, steady and unwavering, as if the object were waiting for something or someone. The Nevada desert was eerily silent at dawn, the chill of the night still clinging to the air as Elara stirred from her makeshift camp. Her gaze instantly fell on the shimmering artifact, its surface glowing faintly in the dim light. The soft, rhythmic pulse of light had persisted through the night, like a living heartbeat. Elara poured herself a mug of synth coffee, her eyes fixed on the object. It felt alien, not just in the literal sense, but in its very essence. Every instinct told her it wasn't meant to be here, and yet here it was. She couldn't resist the pull of its mystery. Grabbing her toolkit, she approached the artifact with caution. Her scanner buzzed faintly, the readings incomprehensible. The material defied identification, rejecting every conventional classification her equipment offered. It wasn't metal, stone, or any polymer known to humanity. Whatever it was unique and alive. Elara placed her palm against the smooth surface. It was cool to the touch, but as if in response to her hand, the pulse of light intensified. She recoiled instinctively, her heart racing. Okay, calm down, she muttered to herself, shaking her hands out as if that would dispel her nerves. She leaned closer, her breath fogging the surface as the glow became more deliberate, shifting in rhythm. Without warning, the object emitted a low hum, resonating in her chest. She stumbled back as the surface began to change, its grooves and ridges shifting and rearranging. A thin, transparent pane slid open, revealing what lay inside. Elara gasped. Suspended in a translucent gel was a figure humanoid but unmistakably alien. The being was a girl, or at least something akin to one. Her skin shimmered like liquid silver, dotted with faint star-like freckles that pulsed with the same rhythm as the artifact. Her hair floated weightlessly, strands of iridescent blue and green swirling in the gel. Elara's shock gave way to wonder. "You've got to be kidding me," she whispered. The girl's eyes were closed, her features serene, as if she were merely sleeping. Her form was delicate, almost ethereal, and yet something about her presence felt overwhelming. Then, the alien girl stirred. The gel within the capsule began to drain, siphoning away through unseen channels. The girl's chest rose and fell breathing. Her eyelids fluttered, and Elara froze, unsure whether to run or stay. When the girl's eyes opened, they glowed with a soft, otherworldly blue light, locking onto Elara's with an intensity that rooted her to the spot. Elara raised her hand slowly, trying to appear non-threatening. "Hey there," she said, her voice shaking. Come in peace?" The girl blinked slowly, her expression unreadable. She raised a hand, pressing it against the inside of the pane. Her fingers splayed, mirroring Elara's position. A faint smile touched her lips, and her head tilted slightly, as if studying Elara. The pane dissolved into nothingness, and the girl stepped forward, her movements fluid and graceful. She stood before Elara, much shorter than expected, her luminous skin casting faint light over the desert floor. The girl extended a hand, her palm upturned. She made a soft, melodic sound almost like a song. Elara hesitated but finally reached out, her hand trembling as it met the alien's. The instant their palms touched, a wave of warmth coursed through Elara, and her vision blurred. Images, sensations, and fragments of alien music flooded her mind. She saw vast starfields, vibrant alien cities, and a planet bathed in light. She felt an overwhelming sense of loneliness, followed by a surge of hope. The connection broke as quickly as it had formed, leaving Elara gasping for air. The alien girl tilted her head again, her glowing eyes filled with curiosity. You're alive," Elara stammered, as if saying it out loud would make it more real. "What are you?" The girl didn't answer with words. Instead, she reached for the ground, tracing intricate patterns in the dirt with her finger. The symbols glowed faintly before fading, leaving Elara with more questions than answers. "Okay," Elara said, taking a deep breath. "You can't talk, but you can show things. Great. Let's figure this out together, I guess." The girl smiled faintly, a flicker of trust passing between them. Elara felt a strange mix of fear, awe, and responsibility. This was no treasure, no artifact to sell or study. This was someone extraordinary. The desert sun rose higher, casting its light over the pair as Elara began to grasp the magnitude of what she'd uncovered. Whatever this girl was, wherever she came from, her presence was about to change everything. The alien girl, whom Elara decided to call Lyra after the constellation, spent the morning exploring the immediate area. She moved with an otherworldly grace, her shimmering skin catching the sunlight and refracting it like a prism. Every now and then, she would pause, running her hands over the rocks and soil as though learning about her surroundings through touch. Elara watched from the shade of her hovercart, her mind racing. What now? She couldn't just walk into a city with Lyra. The government, corporation, someone would take her and claim her discovery. No, she had to tread carefully. For now, the best thing to do was to understand Lyra and her purpose here. As Lyra returned, she gestured toward the capsule, then to herself. Her melodic hums began again, rising and falling in complex patterns. Elara could only guess what they meant, but Lyra's earnest expression made her lean in closer. When Lyra gestured for her hand, Elara hesitated, then relented. The moment their palms touched, another wave of images flooded Elara's mind. This time, the visions were clearer, more detailed. She saw a sprawling city floating in the void of space, its architecture elegant and glowing with energy. Beings like Lyra walked its streets, their skin aglow with the same shimmering light. Then, the vision shifted, showing a vast fleet of dark, spindly ships emerging from a rip in the stars. Chaos erupted. The city burned. The final image seared itself into Elara's mind, Lyra being placed into the capsule by beings who looked older, their faces lined with sadness. They touched her forehead, and she could feel their emotions: grief, hope, and a profound sense of duty. When the connection broke, Elara staggered back, clutching her head. Lyra's glowing eyes searched hers, pleading for understanding. "You were running away?" Elara guessed, piecing the fragments together. "No, not running. They sent you here." "Why?" Lyra pointed toward the horizon, her gestures becoming more frantic. She reached into the dirt again, sketching symbols that glowed faintly before fading. This time, Elara recognized something: a star map. She'd seen similar maps in old astronomy guides, but this one was far more intricate, dotted with constellations she didn't recognize. One star, however, stood out, glowing brighter than the rest. "You were sent here," Elara whispered. "To Earth. But why so far? Why us?" Lyra stepped closer, placing a hand over Elara's chest. The warmth returned, and Elara felt something deeper in emotion radiating from Lyra. It wasn't fear or sadness. It was hope. Elara sat down heavily, staring at the capsule and then back at Lyra. "Your people needed help," she murmured. "And they sent you to find it. But why me? I'm just a scavenger. I don't have the answers you're looking for." Lyra tilted her head, as if amused by the statement. She knelt beside Elara, tracing another set of symbols in the dirt. This time, they depicted two figures standing side by side, their hands joined. One glowed like Lyra, while the other was clearly human. "You think we're supposed to help each other?" Elara asked, incredulous. "You don't know Earth. We barely help ourselves." Lyra's response was simple. She smiled, the glow of her skin intensifying, as if she believed Elara's words couldn't possibly be true. Before Elara could respond, her scanner emitted a sharp alarm. She rushed to check it, her stomach sinking as she saw the reading. A convoy of vehicles was approaching, their heat signatures unmistakable. Someone had picked up on the energy emissions from Lyra's capsule. "Damn it!" Elara hissed, grabbing her pack. She turned to Lyra, who stood calmly, her glowing eyes unperturbed by the panic. "We have to go. Now." Lyra didn't move, instead pointing to the capsule. The object emitted a low hum, its surface shimmering as though responding to her command. Before Elara could ask what she was doing, the capsule began to collapse in on itself, folding into a smaller, more compact shape. In moments, it resembled a metallic orb small enough to carry. Elara stared in disbelief. That would have been good to know earlier. Lyra handed her the orb, her expression urging action. Together, they loaded it into the hover cart and sped away, the dust cloud of the convoy growing larger in the distance. As they drove, Elara glanced at Lyra, who sat quietly, her luminous skin flickering like a candle. Whatever she was, whatever she represented, Elara couldn't shake the feeling that Lyra was more than just a refugee. She was a message bridge between worlds that Earth hadn't been ready to cross. But ready or not, it seemed the time had come. The desert wind whipped at Alara's face as she pushed the hovercart to its limit. The convoy behind them grew closer, their vehicles kicking out massive clouds of dust. Lyra sat beside her, unflinching, her luminous eyes scanning the horizon as if she were searching for something. Alara gritted her teeth. "I hope you've got another trick up your sleeve, Lyra, because I don't think this thing can outrun them." Lyra didn't respond with words. Instead, she held out her hand, palm upward. The metallic orb what remained of her capsule hovered above her palm, spinning rapidly. The hum of its energy grew louder, and its glow intensified. Lyra closed her eyes, and Alara felt a sudden shift in the air, as though the atmosphere itself had grown heavier. Ahead, the horizon shimmered like a heat mirage, but this was no trick of light. A wall of energy materialized, translucent yet impenetrable, stretching high into the sky. Alara slammed on the brakes just in time to avoid colliding with it. What the dash Alara started, but her words were cut short as Lyra raised her hand, motioning for her to stay silent. The alien girl stepped out of the cart, her shimmering form now glowing with a fierce intensity. The convoy reached the barrier moments later, their vehicles skidding to a halt. Armed figures emerged, shouting orders and pointing weapons at the glowing girl. Lyra, unfazed, stepped forward. She raised her hands, and the metallic orb floated higher into the air, emitting a resonant hum that drowned out the noise of the shouting men. Alara watched in awe as the orb projected a beam of light into the sky. The light spread outward, forming a vast, intricate symbol that hung suspended in the air. It was a star map, much like the one Lyra had drawn in the dirt, but now it was alive, shimmering with energy and detail. "What is she doing?" one of the armed men shouted, his voice tinged with fear. He raised his weapon, but before he could fire, the orb emitted a pulse of energy that disarmed every soldier in the convoy. Their weapons clattered harmlessly to the ground. Alara climbed out of the cart, her hands raised. "Nobody move. She's not here to hurt anyone." The soldiers hesitated, glancing at each other and then at the glowing map in the sky. The map shifted, zooming in on a particular star system. As it did, a voice, a melody, both alien and beautiful, emanated from the orb. The sound was haunting, yet it resonated with a deep sense of hope. Lyra turned to Alara, her glowing eyes filled with urgency. She gestured toward the soldiers and then to the star map, her melodic hum rising in pitch. Alara understood immediately. "She's calling her people," Alara said, turning to the stunned soldiers. "She wasn't sent here by accident. Her people need our help, and she's offering an alliance." "Alliance?" one of the soldiers muttered. "With aliens?" "Look around you," Alara snapped. "Do you think we've got the luxury of ignoring something like this? She could have destroyed you all just now, but she didn't. She's asking for trust." The orb emitted another pulse of light, and the star map zoomed out, showing a vast fleet of dark ships like the ones Alara had seen in her vision. The threat was clear. "This is what's coming," Alara said, her voice firm. "Not just for her people, but for us too. If we don't work together, we're done." The soldiers exchanged uneasy glances. Their leader, a grizzled man with a scar running down his cheek, stepped forward. He looked at Lyra, then at the map, and finally at Alara. "What do you need from us?" he asked gruffly. Relief flooded Alara's chest. "First, we need to get her somewhere safe. Somewhere she can send a stronger signal to her people." Lyra lowered the orb, the light from the map fading but the sense of urgency lingering in the air. The soldiers began to dismantle their convoy, offering transportation and supplies. Lyra, though still silent, acknowledged them with a faint smile. Weeks later, Lyra stood atop a makeshift stage in what had once been a government research facility, now transformed into an interstellar communications hub. Leaders from across the world gathered, their faces a mix of skepticism and hope. Beside Lyra, Alara stood as her interpreter and advocate. The broadcast to Lyra's people had been successful. A response had arrived. They were sending emissaries to Earth to discuss an alliance. In return, Lyra's people promised to share technology and knowledge to help defend both planets against the encroaching threat. Elara gazed at Lyra, who seemed to glow even brighter now, her hope reflected in every movement. This wasn't just about survival, it was about unity. For the first time in her life, Elara felt like she was part of something bigger than herself. As the emissaries' ships appeared in the night sky, their lights piercing the darkness like falling stars, Elara knew the world had changed forever. What she had thought was a buried treasure had turned out to be a buried promise, one that could save not just Earth, but countless others across the galaxy. And it had all started with a girl glowing in the desert.